Hey, I'm Kev Hillman. Welcome back to MXGP Pro Race for the second moto. The gates have dropped. And Hillman is underway, chasing a second victory here in the Netherlands. After a great performance in the first race, everyone goes very wide in that first corner. Oh, and Hillman's been shuffled out. He's down to 21st. He's not down to last. Someone else has been cruelly shuffled back as well. As you've got Garcia and Patriot battling for a podium. Got a Frenchman Petrov battling in front over 20th. So Hillman, who won by 9 seconds in the first race, well, he's got to do it by a similar amount back in the second. As we go into the middle set on this opening, that's going to be very tricky to find a move here. The Frenchman's been very slow. Hillman's found the inside as Olsen, now Patriot battling for the podium spot. In third, the Yamaha. And there's Varna. Battling like hell on this opening lap. So is everyone else as well. So they go a bit wide in front. Hillman down the inside up into 18th. They have the Russian and the Belgian. I believe that is. And they get to the inside and the hairpin as they go full wide. And Hillman makes it 15th ahead of Ward Petrov. As he's behind Tropepe. Up into 15th. Which, remember, he's going from last, so at least he's always making up positions on this opening. But no, Tropepe very sideways in the final corner. Hillman makes the move around the outside up into 14th at the end of the open lap as Olsen and Garcia are battling. Oh, and Hillman battling with Tropepe, who once again is slow in the chicane, but he's holding off the race one leader, the winner. Hopefully be the overall winner as well, that's what he's chasing. Or in the second race, and close that gap on Olsen and Jonas in the championship, and Olsen. As he finally gets past the Italian up into 14th, then kind of messes up. A couple of corners, does a wheelie for the crowd as well. Let's go over the jump, look at that beautifully into the wheel tracks there for the left-hander. Then downhill. Just got to be so careful getting on the power. So 1-4 already for Hillman again, once again on the opening lap. This time he's fighting from much further back. He's got Ben Watson, the Brit, in front. In 13th. And the Yamaha, and almost gets into the side of Watson. So a little gap there did Hillman. So it closed very quickly as Tropepe and Petrov battling behind for 15th. Hillman taking the outside line. You can see trying to work that bike into the rut. There's actually Osland in front, not Watson. So Watson in front of Osland. Let's go over the jump alongside the Yamaha into the final corner. Hillman makes the move. There's Pacho and Olsen still battling over a podium. Hillman 2 seconds back on that lap as he got both gears out of line. As he gets ahead of Watson. Well, the Dutchman trying to perform so well for this home crowd in MX2. Oh, he gets cut up there by Hillman. Like some cheese. As he's up to 11th now. And right on the back of Lybear for a top 10. Goes into the left-hander, dives down the inside, oh easy. Because he's got the Italian and Seawell battling in front. Over 8th. Oh, but Leiber battles back. Good fight from the Belgium. And nowhere for Hillman to go into the next corner. You can see it's very congested in this midfield once again, particularly in these early stages. So we're trying to go down the inside, Leiber giving no room note. As you would expect from the Belgian, we've got swiftly shoved aside by Hillman in the opening race. Going finally by. Almost into the back of Seawell in front. His old pal, should we say, all these years in MX2. Swiss rider in 9th. Hillman in the top 10 finally in this race. There's now Garcia and Olsen are battling over 2nd. Looks like Olsen's finally got clear of the Frenchman. Hillman finally got clear of a couple of riders. He does the 35 matching the leaders, gets past the Italian as well, up into 8th, or does he? Messes up the chicane. Taylor holding inside the line. Hillman just has to wait to get onto the throttle. Tries to do cut back in the chicane again. He's around the outside. He's getting pushed towards the post. He holds on. They go through the left-hander. This is a section where he's very strong over that jump and grabs 8th. And goes a bit wide in the next left. But Hillman, this first section has been about fighting back after that start. He's back into the top 10. He'll be even back in the top 5 by the point it counts down to 20 minutes remaining. It's going to be very close. Critically, if he can clear it. Couple of eyes in front critically. He's got Van Dotnik alongside him. He's got the inside line for the left-hander though. And the Belgian makes the move. Nicely done. The Belgian a bit kinder to Hillman and his fellow countryman Neiber. Now he's past Hunter Lawrence as well into the hairpin. That's 6th. And there is 5th and 4th in front. It's Jonas down in 5th. Oh, that thing not green with these sandy conditions. So we'll see if he can catch on to the KTM. As we go past all their hoardings at the end of that. As he sets another low 35, Hillman. He's motoring along again. Around this course. That's what that early setback. So he might reach that top 5 goal then at the end of this first third of the race. Goes over the jump, nicely done. You can see much less aggressive than he was in the opening race though. Is that Jonas? Is he stuck behind Patriel, the Frenchman? It looks like he is. You've got Garcia, Prado and Olsen battling on the podium. And also Covington, I'm guessing, is leading once again, the American. But he's got a good head start on Hillman this time around. But Hillman once again motoring, getting into that groove in this second race. And see, taking some alternate lines as well. As he tries to set up the Jonas. Goes a bit wide through the left-hander though. And you see there's the battle for 2nd and 3rd in front. Has he got a three-way fight then for 4th? Jonas, Patriel and Hillman. Veterans of this category. We've seen this before between these three as well as... Oh, Jonas down the inside of Patriel on the final corner. Didn't expect that move from the Latvian. Now here comes Hillman around the outside of them both. He does a 33.6 to grab 4th. Great racing from the 3 of them. And now for Hillman, he's trying to catch. It's like the other KTM, Prado Garcia. That's all, he does a jump. For chicane, he somehow holds on though. Let's go over the first jump. Hillman just about holding on, and it is the other KTM. So it's like Hasvana 1-2 with Olsen and Covington. The KTM's not having it all their own way, like they are in MXGP, with Herlin's home hero here. One of the best sand racers in the world as well on these sandy surface tracks. And the legend, Coroli, 9-time champ, reigning champ as well. They just race away from the opposition in MXGP. But MX2 is a bit different. As Varna battling right up there, you got Yamaha. As well, you got Suzuki. KTM not having it all their own way. It's much more entertaining on the surface than MX2 than MXGP, where KTM are just racing away from the opposition. We've also got the Kawasaki here with Hillman battling for 3rd now at the end of the opening 3rd of the race. His goal is just to be back in the top 5, not to be battling for a podium already. But he's so good through that fast chicane. He's trying to set up Prado. Has he got the move around the outside? I think he has. He's up into third now. He can chase down the Husqvarnas. The only rider who can chase down the Husqvarnas, it seems. In this second race, the only guy who's chased down Covington 3 times this season. Denied an American victory. Must be bored stiff of seeing Hillman come up behind him. When you see that in this third of the race, that would be Hillman's aim. Be battling for the victory yet by the end of it. First, he's got his teammate to negotiate. You see Covington not that far ahead of Olsen, actually. Once again, Hillman showing how much pace he has in hand on everyone else. So I said Herlings is one of the best sand racers in motocross. Maybe Hillman's right up there as well. Seems to always love the softer stuff. Not as much as the Italian stuff last time out, which was very tough. Doesn't normally do well in the hard surface, but it did well in that second moto against Covington. And in the first race as well, second overall. As he's about to set a 32.8 to take second in the race ahead of Olsen. What kind of planet is Hillman on compared to the rest? And there's his target in this third of the race. Race leader Covington. And oh, he clips the inside bank through the chicane. He doesn't care though. He goes over the jump. Just loves being so aggressive round it. Well, that he can afford to be. He can get that back end out and it will swing back round. He does have the grip in the surface round here. He can battle that throttle. He tries to get out of the right hander, maybe he can't. But he's right in the back of Covington. He must have thought, oh, I didn't see him win again for the first few. He must be way back. Won't see him again this race to the end. It's not even a halfway mark. Just 2/5 of the race has gone by. We've got once again a Hillman v Covington battle. These two have turned into the main rivals this season. We thought it might be KTM with Jonas, Hillman battling the most with. But it's the Husqvarnas, it's Olsen, it's Covington he's battling with the most. Let's see how much of a battle this is for the lead. It's on a big one in the opening race. Slightly odd mistake from Hillman. So he tries to take the lead again across the line. They're virtually neck and neck. And Hillman does jump over Covington. Takes that lead. And now he's got 17 minutes. And 2 laps to survive in the lead. Or to just race away from the American like he did in that opening race. So he goes over the jumps. Absolutely loving this sector. All the bumps being virtually flat out as well. Into that left hand, they don't have to brake, just use the engine braking. Get it down to third. You can see Hillman being a bit more aggressive with his lines as well this race, leading to that 32. Much less on the brakes as well. That's something he kind of learned from the opening race. It's only really this right hand in the hairpin coming up, he's really on the brakes. Not even into that hairpin after the first chicane, he's really on the brakes. Just gets it down to third and gets the bike in towards that apex. Motors away. Just like he is again once again from the American. He must be bored stiff of seeing his view already this season. Same for everyone else when Hillman's on it. I mean, he's got a gap to make up to Jonas, and he's doing a fantastic job of closing it here. And to the top 4 in the championship. So you go see the rare scrub as well across the line. Can afford to do it now. Crowd loving it. It's out of that hairpin. It's so wide open, it's so flat out as well through that chicane. Much rather than remember as well. It's not as hairy being right flat out through that chicane as it used to be. Oh, this section used to be flat out as well. Was virtually flat out there for Hillman. As he goes downhill. Not even using the brakes this time. They're using the bumps. You feel with a downhill braking section, yeah, you would have to use the brakes quite a lot, but this time, Hillman not. Just getting better around this course. So you can see now he's trying to use the outside line now. Seems to be working as well. Let's go out the left-hander, so he's only really using the brakes into this chicane or hairpin. Or can he get away without using them? Let's see. There's that main rut to kind of drag the bike round, and it seems to work there. So no corners. You need to use the brakes really. Maybe in the way it would be different, and it just shows how quick this track is as well. Yeah, you got some tight corners, but it's got the ruts to help you to get around them. There's another faster that from here on 32.7. And he celebrates by hitting the bank in the first chicane as you go into the second half of this race. With an unstoppable force in the lead. To be fair, Covington is as well in second. If it weren't for Hillman, he'd be dominating these races. Be right up there in the championship as well. Or more up there in the championship. We thought this might be a battle between KTM and Husqvarna this season. Well, here comes Hillman with Kawasaki support. Trying to upset the big boys in this MX2 class. And you would bet against him not closing that gap and winning the championship and then kind of stepping up to MXGP immediately. About the likes of Herlings, Caroni, Ferber, Carlin, Koldenoff, Van Hornbeck. So the names just roll off the tongue. Simpson as well, all winners or podium getters. So that's a very wide line from Hillman. Just trying out new things now he's in the lead. He's got a gap. I'm feeling very confident on this bike round here. A little sideways action as well. There's not many places to actually scrub like that, is there? Maybe this jump. Jump across the start finish line as well. Let's go through the first chicane, crowd loving that. So we thought by the end of this third of the race, Hillman would be battling for the win. Well, he's battling no one now, apart from himself and this track, as he gets rutted up and tries to survive that jump as well. Now he's just flat out in this section, not lifting at all. Normally expect him to lift. Not on that occasion. That's how confident he is on this bike round here now. As he goes to the outside line, they're still not sure about the best line through that corner. We know the outside line is the best through these corners as well to avoid all those bumps on the inside. As he gets it down to third on this occasion. Not trying to get the thrust out that corner, it's just trying to continue it as a corner through the next left. So you get a good run down this back straight if you don't hit the bank on the inside. As always, right up there fastest at that pace. Could be another 32 from Hillman, despite all the alternate lines he's trying out now. He's going to the final corner, taking the outside line now. Oh, that might set up a much better run. Heading towards the line, could be a 31. It is 31.6. He just smashed the fast lap by a second. Absolutely incredible from Hillman. Maybe with more setup changes, we could get under 1 minute 30 round here. It could be an MXGP bike round here compared to an MX2 bike. As we approach the final third of the race, this is too easy for Hillman. Against the hardest opponents as well. Makes you wonder why there isn't a slider like you see in MXGP, in MotoGP. I'm wondering why they didn't bother putting that in. Because they have the same high utility extreme, but for some reason they didn't put the slider in this game, even though they did in MotoGP. And that's the weird thing about Milestone this year. We've seen things in other games, say in gravel or supercross, which have been taken away in other games, or just been changed. And you're wondering why. I know it might make the games feel a bit samey, but then Supercross and MXGP Pro are always going to feel samey, you would have thought. Or feels very similar. But then you have a game released in between with MotoGP with kind of different things, with the stats, with how it's presented. Of course, it's got the official MotoGP graphics, but the menus as well, with a very sterile feel. And then you have this, where it feels very much at home. And you're wondering why MotoGP didn't go back to the layout they had, or feel they had, in earlier MotoGP games, where you're in the motorhome. You can look around, maybe do the F1 thing, and if you walk around the paddock. I thought it would have been a natural extension that Monster would have gone down. If you've been in the motor, maybe with this engine now you could have walked down the paddock like you got in F1 2018, but they've just gone in a totally different direction for some reason in the menus and made them very sterile, and you got the wind tunnel feel for MotoGP 18, it just doesn't really work. Maybe they'll do it for the next game, get back into that moto, because that felt the best as well. The UI as well, looking around, that was pretty cool. But they've taken so many things out of MotoGP 18 compared to previous MotoGP games, such as the historic bikes, classes, such as game modes as well. But you just do see that that's kind of the reboot game. MotoGP United should have lots more stuff, hopefully, with Monster making it. Same with MXGP Pro. Well, this handling model feels in between. It feels like a transition handling model. Same with the surface as well. I can see that they've gone out their way to try and have a more realistic track surface where you can't just ride all over the place, but then it doesn't feel like it's rutted anymore. For some reason the rutting's gone way back compared to MXGP 3, which was actually pretty effective, and you can actually feel that change over a race. You can't feel it over, even in these 30 plus minute plus 2 lap races, you can't feel that change as Hillman comes to laps and back markers now. It's a big step back, rutting during races, it feels like, even though you can kind of see it in between races, kind of a rutting. Well, the track's more, at least visually, kind of ridden in. But then you're seeing that times, as you just seen, like 20 minutes into a race, doing that times seconds faster than I was doing at the beginning, in clear air as well. So it's like big step back. And so for MotoGP, oh, he's down, he's clipped the sign, Hillman. He almost made it a race without making a mistake. But that in the back markers has bit him in the arse. But yeah, this has been a very disappointing couple of games for Milestone, so they just feel like reboot games, MXGP Pro and MotoGP 18. It feels like the next games will be the good ones. Like, these are just ideas that are half materialised. So hopefully we can see them materialised in, I don't know what's going to follow MXGP Pro, if Milestone have the licence, or the MotoGP games, which I'm guessing they still have the licence, as they're really, you know, bigging up the esports now for MotoGP. As they've seen the F1 games bandwagon, they've seen, of course, iRacing's had their series for a number of years now. You could call that esports. They've had it for like a decade. And you've got Formula E as well. Lots of series picking up the esports, DTM, the race room platform, or Mercedes, should I say, with the race room platform. So you've got the GTs. And of course, you got with the Blancpain series as well, now with Assetto Corsa, with Kunos. So it's actually spread over quite a wide net, all these series doing their esports, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes in the next few years, if how many die out, how many remain. I could definitely see the F1 sticking, because F1's just insanely popular. And F1 are doing a good job of promoting their esports as well, putting it on the main channel, even though I know there's some backlash about it, like we're here for the real F1, but kudos to Liberty and F1 for actually trying to promote their esports and do a good job with it. Not with the odd retreat like MotoGP do. But yeah, I can definitely see it build in the next 5 years. I'm not sure about MotoGP esports. It depends on Milestone really, if they still have the license, or whoever picks up the license as well. Same with maybe the F1 games. I'm not sure how long Cody's have the license for, but I guess in F1 we're pretty happy with how Cody's are doing it, because they're really pushing that game, that single player especially, towards what you see in NBA 2K with the RPG elements, with an actual story to follow. Like we've seen in FIFA with the Journey, like we've seen with Madden, with Longshot as well. It's finally coming to the F1 games as well, so motorsports is getting into that sector as well of RPG, storytelling, single player games like we've seen with, like I'm doing with MLB The Show 18 as well. Even though I don't think the show does the best job with it, the story is fit for you playing in some cutscenes in between. Like there's not as much of a story element to the show. When you think of something called The Show, you would have thought there'd be a bit more show, but not at the moment. But they've got some things to fix for that game as well, for the next edition. But still, it's a fantastic game. Shame about 2K going backwards, and so you're seeing with NBA Live, I really want to play that next time, because NBA Live 19, the first, as far as I know, sports games where you can be a female protagonist as well, and have your own story in single player. Well, these are the big American sports games, which is fantastic to see, as they've got the WNBA as well. Something which this game doesn't have. Doesn't have the women's motocross in it. Even though women's motocross is kind of treated as a second-class citizen, it feels like, by motocross. They should be having more events. But it gets mentioned as well in highlights packages. That's the same with all junior categories, unfortunately. When you look at the motocross channel, you see their news roundup. It just covers MX2 and MXGP. What about the European Motocross 1000? What about all these other classes as well, junior classes? Why not mention them as well? But then F1 doesn't do that, it just talks about F1, doesn't it? Why don't talk about F2 or what's going to be F3 next year, GP3? So yeah, NBA Live 19, that should be good. I'm surprised F1 doesn't have the female protagonists as well. I mean, it's not like it's going to change much who's going to be behind the car. Like even Forza has that. No, I can't remember now. Maybe they do. I'll have to go back to F1 2017, which is something I don't want to do, but maybe I'll check it out and see if they do. But that should be very exciting. NBA Live 19. Gameplay still not as good as 2K from what I've played. It's getting there though. It's very arcadey compared to 2K, which is better for players like me who are rubbish at NBA games or basketball games, so I can score 30 points in the game and actually look good. And I guess the next thing for Live for 20 would be getting the European leagues in, getting some Euro Cup in, Euro basketball. That would be superb. Like we've seen with the 2K franchise, they've had it. Had classic teams as well. But it seems like with Live, unusually, they are actually bigging up the single player. When you look at FIFA, of course, they're bigging up Ultimate Team, or with Madden as well now. Like they've ignored franchise mode for a few years on Madden. Now then it looks like they're actually bothering to do stuff with it. Which is a bit surprising when you consider, as I said, Longshot was pretty good from EA. I'm surprised they haven't put in another Longshot story in. That was actually really enjoyable. Both as a football fan and someone who's not a football fan, I imagine you could actually learn quite a lot about the game as well, playing Longshot. So if you just interested in NFL, if you have EA Access, for instance, you can probably download the game for free and actually try Longshot, and you actually learn like passing concepts as well. It's like that game, you get a decent story too. Of course, it's a bit mushy. It's not too bad. It's a bit cheesy in times, but it's actually a really good story for a sports game. So much better than 2K have been putting out in the last couple of years with the likes of Spike Lee. Well, that story was abysmal in 2K17, I think it was. Well, the beginning part was. I think as you got into the game, it got less into the story and you could focus more on the basketball. But we saw with the last game as well, just nonsense story. I don't know what 2K will do with that NBA 2K franchise. They could be kings of the world at the moment. They act like kings of the world as well. They're esports too. Esports League, but Live's still there. Live's doing the good things. Live's doing what it should. Try and catch up. It's trying to be more inclusive to games, as I say, including women and being able to play as women. And actually trying to build up single player rather than just focusing on multiplayer, like I said they did with FIFA. So even though Live's not there gameplay wise or graphics wise, it's getting better and better every year, and it's good to see that might actually be competition for 2K. So I'm definitely just a Live player now. I'm not going to be on touching the 2K game forever because of how they butchered their series. It's a shame we don't see that with kind of other licensed motorsport games such as F1. I remember when they used to have two companies doing the F1 games with Sony and with EA. Because that was pretty good having two different kind of interpretations of F1 every year. But of course I can understand now in the current climate why there's not two games battling out as well as often. Of course, you had MX vs ATV All Out come out this year, which is, I guess, against Supercross in the year for Milestone. Unfortunately, it looks like MX vs ATV's just gone down a black hole, quality-wise, and it's never coming back in the hands of Nordic THQ. Even though I did enjoy the version couple games back, I can't remember what it's called now. It's the one after Reflex in the MX vs ATV universe. I thought that was actually pretty enjoyable. Played that a lot online. Had some good battles. Considering what Milestone did with Supercross, it's just on the whole decent. Just it was a Milestone game, unfortunately. Looking forward to see if they can do another Supercross game next year and just improve on what they did, because presentation was good, physics was on a good direction as well. Fortunately, your opponents were a bit stupider than they are in even this game, in MXGP Pro, but at least it was progress for Milestone. Unlike, as I said, with MotoGP 18 and MXGP Pro, which just seem to be reboots of franchises, and then Gravel, which they hyped up for ages and which didn't turn out to be that good in the end, as Hillman's just bashing people wide on this last lap. I hope you enjoyed the ramble about sports games in general. And as I said, the competition there for motocross as well. Of course, there's more simulator type games than these. You've got MX Bikes, MX Simulator, and you've got Hillman bashing everyone simulator as well. As Hillman wins by 25.7 seconds in the end after 22 laps, with Olsen in third, making another double Husqvarna podium, and Garcia ahead of Jonas In 4th and 5th, once again, it's KTM 4th and 5th with Patriot in 6th. Honda in 7th ahead of Hunter Lawrence in Van Dotnik. And Siwa rounding out the top 10 with Bogues in 12th on home turf. Vassen down in 18th. And the Frenchman at the back on the Kawasaki with Petrov in 15th on another Kawasaki, the American 17th and the Russian in at 19th. So overall, after the MXGP of Europe, Osland says knowing how to manage the rhythm of the race is crucial, often leading to a victory. Like Hillman, of course, we approved that. I said rode better than anyone in this year. We can't deny it. He's got what it takes. No doubt about that. With Hillman race, I don't think he deserved the top. Okay, Trepepe. You want to fight? Let's go out. Let's go back. Let's go out back, shall we? As Hillman was 6 points ahead of Covington. Grabs the overall, of course. Olsen in 3rd. Garcia in 4th. Jonas in 5th. Both the KTMs losing 16 points to Hillman. Patrick on 6th. Then the Italian, Lawrence, Van Dotnik. Bogues grabs the top 10 in home turf with 21 points. So after a third of the season, Jonas leads by 9 points ahead of Covington with Olsen just a further point back. It really is close between the top 3. Garcia in 4th, just 4 points ahead of Hillman. He's just 36 points back now. And we've got Patriot in 6th, Siwa in 7th, then Lawrence, Bogues, Leiber rounding out the top 10 ahead of Sveda, Belgium. Van Dotnik, as there's a massive gap though between the pair. And looking further back, got Osland in 13th, Ben Watson in 17th on his KTM, Vassard in 24th on his Suzuki. And right at the back is a Monteselli and the South African. So lots of credits earned. And fame as well. And a very successful visit to the Netherlands as next time I head to Jonas's home turf in Latvia by the Kegums track. And once again, I think it's the sandy surface track, but it's a bit tighter. It's not as fast and flowing, especially in the first half of that. Then it really does open up in the second half. I've got some good massive jumps as well, some good undulation as well in the second half of the lap. And will Hillman make it another perfect weekend? And next time out, South watching, we'll find out then.